Hey everyone, welcome to Careers Out There. I'm your host Mark Luber, and we're helping you find a career that fits you. Today we're looking at careers in public relations, and our guest is PR pro Gini Dietrich. Gini's got a ton of experience in the PR space. She's worked at powerhouse companies like Fleischman Hillard, and for the past 5+ years, she's been founder and CEO of her own boutique PR firm headquartered in Chicago called Arment Dietrich. Gini's one of the top-rated communication pros on the social networks, and she's got a great blog you should check out at spinsucks.com. Gini's got a lot to share with us about PR careers, so it's going to be a great show. Stick around. All right, we're back. Gini, welcome to Careers Out There.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me.
All right, yeah, thanks for being here. So tell us, what is PR, and what does someone who works in public relations do?
So public relations, it's almost easier to explain what it's not. When you wag the dog, Sex and the City, there's a new show called Spin Industry that Kim Kardashian's doing. When you see the PR industry in movies and on TV, it's really portrayed as event planning, planning big parties, hanging out with celebrities, or, in the wag the dog example, making up something to get away from the real news, to divert attention away from the real news. That's not what we do. So what we do as public relations professionals is we really help businesses communicate with their customers. Their customers could be employees. Their customers could be the people who buy their product or service. Their customers could be the board or their stakeholders. They could be their investors if it's a Fortune 500 company or a publicly traded company. So that's when I talk about customers, I'm really talking about the people that are involved in some way in the company. So we teach them how to communicate with their customers. And it's really, you'd be really surprised at how many people don't know how to communicate and how they believe it's sort of this mantra of, we as executives talk and you as employees listen, and what we do is we change that so that it's a two-way street and you get that back and forth communication both with your employees and your stakeholders and your customers. And what the web is really doing is allowing us a two-way street between businesses and customers in order to be able to have those conversations both ways, instead of, in the old world it was we'd send out a news release and the media would pick it up and they'd write a story and it would be the company's side of the story, but the customer never got to tell their side of the story. Now the customer gets to tell their side of the story and the company gets to have that conversation with them. So we really teach companies how to have those conversations. Interesting.
So how did it all differ from marketing?
So marketing, a couple of things. Companies usually put marketing and sales together. Marketing and sales are two different things. So when you hear, I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing, you're going to hear that a lot when you get into this industry. Two different things. Sales is sales, and marketing really is generating interest. It's finding the right people to talk to so that then they buy your product or service. And public relations added on top of that is taking those people that are interested and having those conversations with them to move the process forward. So you almost want to say, marketing is the first entree into finding interested parties. Then you add public relations and advertising on top of that to begin that conversation and understand what they're looking for. And then sales closes the door.
I like that. That's interesting. So with marketing, it sounds from your description, I've worked in marketing and then I switched into sales, so it's fun to hear your explanation. So with marketing, would you say then it's more of like a one-way communication and the PR is more the two-way communication?
Yeah, I think it's becoming that. I don't think it has always been that way, but it definitely is becoming that. Marketing from the perspective of some of the things that we do is from a communication standpoint, we'll write a white paper, for instance. And what we do is we take out all the sales jargon. We don't make it salesy. We say to the sales team, it's great that you want to sell, but what we're trying to do is communicate. We're trying to have a conversation. So we need to make this valuable to the customer. So we write the white paper. We make sure that it's valuable and that the content is rich. Then we give it to marketing, and marketing then has their tools with email addresses and their database and everything that they can send it to. And so then what happens is from there it goes on to sales, and sales gets to close the leads.
Got it. So then tell us, what are some of the different types of PR?
So there's quite a few different types. There's social media marketing now. There's crisis communication. There's publicity, which is a lot of what people hear about. You know, LeBron James has a publicist who isn't very good, in my opinion.
I'm with you
Reggie
there.
Bush has a publicist. You know, Tony Hsieh, the CEO of Zappos, that he was just here in Chicago, and I saw him speak. He has a publicist. So publicists are usually people that work with individuals to help get their personal brand out. There's digital, there's business to business, there's business to consumer, there's a whole magnitude of different careers within the industry that you can have.
And if somebody's watching who's interested in going down this route, what are the different kinds of places? They could work at a boutique agency like yours, they could work at a massive company like Fleischmann, or they could go to Microsoft and a big company and be their PR person at the company. Is that right?
Right. Yep. Yeah, I mean, most companies, unless they're tiny, have a PR/marketing department. You may be the only person in it, depending on how big the company is. But if you're at Microsoft, you're going to be one of a pretty big team. I think they have something like 200 or 250 advertising and PR pros within their four walls. So it just depends on what you want to do. Do you want to have? I think the difference between large and small company or agency is you really get to affect business growth at a small company. At a big agency or a big company, you're part of the wheel, you're a cog in the wheel to keep things going, but you really learn the industry. So it just depends on what you want to do.
Okay, and so if someone's at a company like yours or at Fleischmann, how are they then interacting with the company client? Are they talking to the director of communications every day? Is that who someone working for you would be interacting with?
Yeah, it depends. The CEO is usually involved at the client in some fashion because they're typically the face of the company. So they would be the spokesperson. They would be the one interviewed. But typically that relationship is left at the high level at the agency. So I would have the relationship with the CEO, and then someone who works for me would have the relationship with the director of PR, the director of marketing, or somebody like that.
Got it. Okay. And so tell us about your company and working at a boutique firm. What's a typical example of a client, someone you'd represent, and what would you specifically do for them?
A typical example of a client. I don't think there is a typical example.
All right.
I'd say about 80% of our business is business to business. So companies that work directly with businesses. It's not as sexy. I mean, we work on things like oxidizers and online auctions and lawn and garden products. I mean, so it's not sexy stuff, but it's interesting. It makes you smart. For one client, we're revising their website content because it was very, very me focused. And what we're trying to do is make it very value focused to the customer. And another client, we're helping them write white papers, again, that's not me focused, but valuable to their customers in order to help drive leads. So it really depends. I mean, there's a big multitude of things. We do a ton of social media, a ton of search engine optimization.
So when you say you're doing social media, so for someone watching and hearing that you're doing social media for a client, does that mean that you have someone sitting there running their Twitter page, running their Facebook page, interacting with their clients?
My philosophy is that people want to connect with you. They don't want to connect with the middleman, and we're the middleman. So typically we will not run Twitter and Facebook pages for clients, but we coach, we supervise, we give ideas, we're really involved, but we won't actually do that piece of the work. That may change, I don't know, but my philosophy is, you and I have the relationship. We don't want somebody over here asking. It'd be like doing this interview and having somebody here. You go, okay, ask her this, and then they'd ask me. And I mean, nobody wants that.
Right. Actually, I have someone sitting next to me telling me what to ask. That's how I do it. So, what would you say then? What's the big difference between if someone's watching, I don't know, do I want to be at a big company, a small company? What's the difference between working for someone like you versus working at a big Fleischmann-Hillard kind of a place?
I think there are a lot of differences. The big one is you're working for an entrepreneur here. and you're working for a very established company at a global firm. So if you have the wherewithal to deal with the crazy eccentricities of an entrepreneur, then you're probably going to be okay. We look for people who are really self-motivated, who don't have to have a lot of supervision, who don't like to be micromanaged, who can get up and come to work and do their jobs and come up with great ideas and not be afraid to pitch the ideas to us. At a big firm, you're really, like I said, a cog in the wheel, and so you have a specific job, and it may be all you do is write for a year, or maybe all you do is pitch media for a year, or maybe you have a very specific job until your next promotion. So, like I said, you really learn PR that way. But at a smaller agency, you pretty much do everything. So it just depends on what you want.
Yeah, if you like wearing lots of hats,
yeah,
then that's more the right route.
And you may end up doing laundry and baking cookies here as well. So
hopefully they're good cookies.
They're the Toll House pre-made, but gotta feed the belly.
Nice. What about a typical day then? Is there a typical day, and what would one be for someone?
I would love a typical day. My typical day usually is writing a blog post, making sure that it gets promoted in the right places, linked to the right places. We have one staff meeting a week where it's brainstorm ideas, overflow information, and then it's pretty much spread and do your work. So a typical day for somebody starting in the industry may be monitoring the news and the social networks for any client information that's out there, creating reports and making sure that the client's getting that kind of information, providing recommendations on what to do with that information. If there are negative comments out there, how we deal with that, making recommendations on dealing with that kind of stuff. It really depends on the client that you're working on. So there really isn't a typical day, but there are certain things that you do over and over and over again.
Huh. Interesting. So what about the most rewarding part of that day? What's the most rewarding aspect of what you do?
So I asked my team the most rewarding and the most challenging part of their job. And pretty much everybody said the most rewarding part is when a client says thank you, or they appreciate the work that you've done. Pretty much everybody said that. We're in a pretty thankless job, and which is fine because we're behind the scenes and we should be, and that's part of what we tell people when they come into the industry is you're not going to get thank you a lot. You're just expected to do this work, and so when you get thank you, I think it's really rewarding.
It's funny, as a recruiter, I felt the exact same way because it's a very thankless job connecting someone to their job. Often they take that job, they're like, all right, thanks, don't need you anymore.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
That's so weird.
But then other people, you become their friend, you get invited to their wedding, or they send you a thank you gift, or whatever. There's some people who are really appreciative, and that was always the most rewarding aspect. That really was a thank you, just when someone was appreciative of what you did all day. So, all right. So you also asked everyone about the biggest challenge. What would they say is the biggest challenge of this path?
Not getting thank you.
Not getting thank you.
That one I got a few more answers. I got things like working in a team, which I thought was interesting because you work as a team, but you're also autonomous from the perspective of you have your own career goals. And one of the things that we do that I'm not sure everybody does, but we definitely didn't do this at Fleischman, we create goals that are attributed to business growth in addition to client satisfaction and all that stuff, keeping clients happy. So they have their own goals, individual goals, but then they have to work as a team. So if somebody's goal isn't the same as another person's, but they're working as a team, you sort of have that, not fighting, but sort of that pull in terms of what's more important or where that priority is. So I thought that answer was really interesting.
What would you say are the best personality types and skill sets for someone who wants to join a public relations career?
Really, any personality type can fit. We really don't want one extreme or the other, an extrovert to the extreme or an introvert to the extreme, because the introverts to the extreme are painfully shy and they can't talk to people. And really, this is a client service business. We're talking to clients, we're counseling clients, so you have to be able to talk to clients. But on the extroverted side, extroverts, and I can say this because my husband is an extrovert to the nth degree, don't tend to listen very well. They're like charismatic and people love to be around them and they're the center of attention, but they don't listen very well. So you need somebody in the middle, somebody that can ask the right questions, who can be thoughtful, who can think, but also listen really well. And you sort of don't get that on either extreme. You sort of want somebody that's in the middle there.
And what type of skills should someone bring to the table in addition to good listening skills? What are other important skills that someone really needs to have to succeed?
You've got to be an excellent writer. You really have to be able to write, because I would say, man, 85% of your job is writing. It's writing memos, it's writing blog posts, it's writing news releases, it's writing feature stories, it's writing white papers, whatever it happens to be, you write. So you've got to be an excellent writer. You have to be a reader, because I believe that the more you read, the smarter you become, because you're exercising your brain. And if you don't read, or you don't read good writing, that you can't be a good writer. One of the questions that we always ask is what was the last book that you read? And that tells a lot about a person. You know, if it's Danielle Steele, probably not going to hire that person. Saying.
Right. So what's the skill set that if you don't have, you can't do this career path? If you other than writing, would writing be the main one, or is there something where to weed people out where you'd say if you can't handle this?
I would say writing, because we give everybody a writing test, and if they don't pass the writing test, they're not in. So I would say that's the number one skill. If you don't have it or you don't like to write, find something else.
Okay, good. Hear that, everybody? We'll call that red magic marker territory. You got to be able to write. So if you can't do it, don't even think about this path. That's our red magic marker point for the day.
Yep.
What about types of majors and educational backgrounds? What would you say someone should be studying in school?
You know, really they should be studying, I would say you can get a public relations degree. You can get an integrated marketing communications degree, an English degree because you read and write, as I am well aware of. A business degree, because you're really, if you can figure out how a business makes money and how you can translate what you do into helping that business grow, then you're going to be well off. You know, the things that don't make sense are like chemistry and science type stuff.
Right.
You know, that kind of stuff. More liberal arts.
Got it. Well, tell us your personal background. What did you study and what got you on this path?
So I studied English. I was going to go to law school because I wanted to be a sports agent. And I knew that I wanted to be a sports agent. I didn't want to be an attorney. But at the time, my mom said, you know, you'd make a terrible attorney. And I was like, gosh, she's right. Why am I going to law school? Without really realizing that there was a difference between being an attorney and being a sports agent. But that's neither here nor there. I was young and stupid. I didn't have careers out there back then.
There you go.
So I had to get a job, and a friend of mine worked for the now defunct advertising agency called Valentine Radford, and she said, you know what, we're looking for an account coordinator. You should apply. And so I did. I started out making color copies. And I mean, I'm not that old, but back then the color copier was this gigantic machine, and it took like 4 minutes per side to make a copy. So I would stand there and I would read. It was copies of stories that we had gotten placed for clients. So reporters had written stories about our clients, and I had to make color copies of like the newspaper, magazine story. So put it on there, and it would go for 4 minutes across making the color copy. I didn't have anything else to do, so I'd read the stupid articles. And I was invited to a client meeting and was told to sit in the back and not say anything. I was just there to learn and observe. And I was like, fine, I was 6 months out of college, whatever. So I was sitting in the back, and the client asked a question, and the client team, our team, had no idea the answer. Well, because I'd been reading these stupid articles, I knew the answer. So I was like, I know the answer. And everyone turned and looked at me, and I gave them the answer. And after that, my boss pulled me aside and said, I think it's time for a promotion. Like,
Nice.
thanks. Never make color copies again.
That's great. I always tell people that, like if you're an intern or if you're taking a summer job, you always have to read everything you can get your hands on. I mean, it's such a huge way to learn. I remember it being an intern, and this is when fax machines were used for everything, before email was used for everything, and any fax I could get my hands on. Sometimes I once had a job where one of my roles as an intern was Xerox the faxes, because faxes used to come in that horrible, weird, waxy paper.
Oh, yeah.
So no one wanted to touch that paper, plus it fades over time. So I had to Xerox every fax that came in and then bring them the paper copy of the fax. So I would read everything, and I learned so much by touching every single thing that came into the office. It's definitely, and that was to break into the music industry. It was a very, very helpful thing to do. So then you built your career there at Fleischmann, and what led to starting Arment Dietrich?
I wish people would stop asking me that. I worked at Fleischmann in Kansas City. I wanted to get out of Kansas City, and I wanted to transfer to the Fleischmann office in Chicago, and they weren't hiring at the time. So I actually moved to an ad agency called Ray & Kaiser to help start their PR department. And when I say that PR and advertising under one roof don't mesh well together, I think I'm probably being nice about it. It didn't work. I also have a really big problem with authority. If I feel like I'm smarter than my boss, then I don't do well with my boss telling me what to do. I also might be a little too big for my britches. So I got angry one night at the creative director because he was telling me how to do my job. He was the creative director, not PR director. And I got mad and was like, screw this. And I left. And I had to make money. So I freelanced for a couple of years trying to figure out what I wanted to do and if I wanted to go back to the agency side. And I found out that I was really good at making rain. And I kept getting all these clients, and I needed help to execute what I had sold. So I hired people, and then I hired more people, and then I hired more people, and suddenly I had an agency. So I wish there was some like romantic thing that happened that, I had always wanted to own an agency or something. No, it's because I have a problem with authority.
You know what? Don't most entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's just a big part of it, I think. You don't want to hear other people's rules and play by their rules. You know your own set of rules in your heart. Exactly. You just want to run with those.
Right.
Makes perfect sense. What about money? What's the financial path like for someone, whether they're going to a boutique agency right out of school, or if they're going to a Fleischmann? What could somebody be looking at career-wise for salary?
It depends on where you are in the country. The big cities, you're obviously going to make more. We start out at 28 and go on up depending on how many internships they have, what kind of writer they are, how much training we think they're going to need in terms of writing skills and things like that. Now, if they already have a blog or they're using Twitter and Facebook to help build their own personal brands, we're probably going to pay them a little bit higher, more in the lower 30s range, because we know that they already have the skill to do some of that stuff. But, when I started, I made 15 years ago, my starting salary was 17. So, it just depends. But that was Kansas City. So, here it probably would have been 24 or something like that. But, I mean, it's not a gigantic, huge, like you're going to get out of school and make six figures, but you do get to the six-figure range.
So you can. For those who want to stick with it and grow, they can.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And
I think I made six figures by the time I think I had like 6 or 7 years of experience before I made six figures. So.
That's great. That's still pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, for sure. So give us an action plan. What if I'm in school and this all sounds great? I want to work for Gini. I want to be like Gini. I want to go this route. What should I do? Internships. Even if they're free, if they don't pay, you have to do internships because that's where you're going to get your experience. We will not look at somebody if they don't have at least 2 internships with an agency. We won't look at them at all. We will give you an internship if you've not done it anywhere else, but we will not hire you full-time if you don't have at least 2. So get out there and get some internships. All of the agencies hire. All of the nonprofits hire. Some corporations hire. So, and that's really for you to fill out too if this is the industry you want to get into. I will say that an internship at a big agency is going to be much different than at a small, because at the small you'll get to actually do some client work. You won't talk to the clients, but you'll get to do some client work. At a big, you're not going to touch client work at all. And that would be the same if I wanted to go to a big agency. I'm in school. I should take internships at those places. That would be the best.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And what if I'm done with school and I've been working for 7 years? I don't know, selling medical equipment or doing something, working in an ad agency, and I've decided I want to go this PR route. I want to go your route. What do I do? How can I transition? What's an action plan for that?
Unfortunately, I think you're still going to have to do an internship. There are a couple of people that have gotten into the social media space that feel like they can add value to a PR firm. And I'm, as a business owner, pretty cautious about it. It's a pretty big risk for us to take. So if you're willing to sort of start at the bottom again, you're probably going to get promoted and climb up pretty quickly because of your work experience. But it's just a really big risk for a business to take. And the big agencies won't look at you at all if you don't have it.
Wow.
If you don't have the experience. So
okay.
The smaller ones are more willing to take risks.
So the sooner people start and get out there and start getting that experience, the better.
Yep.
Okay. That's another red magic marker moment. Give us the big red magic marker moment. Give us the summary. Wrap us up with some keys to success. Some bullet point keys to success for this path that everyone should be thinking about.
If you like to write and you're passionate about writing, start a blog. We don't care if you're writing about tree frogs or about the way that your dogs are all the time. We don't care. As long as we can see that you know how to write and that you have some consistency in doing that and that you can attract readers. Get on Twitter and Facebook because if you want to go to the agency side, all of the agencies are on both and you can connect with the people who work there. So you can develop that relationship and also understand what it's like to work, what it would be like to work at those companies before you actually interview. We will not look at a resume if the person has not connected with us on one of those social platforms first. We want to have that relationship already built, that foundation already built before we interview you. Read as much as you can, as much as you can possibly take in. Newspapers, magazines, blogs, articles, books, read as much as you can. Google Reader is the best invention on earth. Learn how to use it efficiently. And, really decide if you can wear multiple hats and you like to be doing a whole bunch of things and juggling a bunch of different projects at once. Really think about a small to mid-sized agency. If you really feel like you want to understand the industry and focus on one thing at a time, writing or media relations or crisis, whatever it happens to be, then think about the big agency. Be the sole PR person at a company, then you go to the corporate side. And then you also have the big, to use your example, Microsoft's, where you could be one of 250 people and really learn inside that company, but focus on one client.
Excellent advice. I hope everybody appreciates that. Thank you very much, Ginny. We love that. As always, you get real advice from real professionals like Ginny Dietrich here. Ginny, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This has been fun, and you guys, you can check out Ginny's website. Make sure to check out spinsucks.com. If you can read my handwriting there, it actually says spinsucks.com. And please, we want to hear from you, so leave your feedback in the comments section on the site. Let us know if you have questions. I'm sure Ginny would be helpful and be willing to answer some of them, and I'd be willing to help get answers for you guys. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Did this video help you out, and what else do you want to know about public relations careers? Thanks for watching as always. I'm Mark Luber. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.